Hey guys, remember if you want your solves critiqued, you can support me on Patreon. I give everyone tips on how to improve, and every month one person will be selected to be in a critique video. So as I go through these, I'll show the cross solution that was done, and for any of you watching, see if you can come up with a better cross solution. So in this case, what was done was set up red and green here, set up orange over here, and then insert green, red, and as you insert orange, insert blue like that. So how we can make this a better cross solution is by following the general guideline of if pieces are closer to being solved, you want to solve them last. So since we can set up red and green in one move, we could do that in the beginning or we could do that later on, just depending on if they're going to stay in this general location by solving everything else first. So if we do this, we're not going to solve them yet, and this moving orange here is not a bad move, but then the next move is where we can do something better. Blue is the farthest from being solved, so if we solve that first, then now we have blue solved, and these three ready to go in. And there is one better way to do the cross solution, and that is to notice that blue and orange can go in like that, and now they're correct. So red and green are still in the same place, so that is why this is good to do, because these don't move and you can just do them the same way as you would have. So here after the cross, you seem to have focused on this corner specifically, and even though there was this pair, and this pair, which is technically a little better than this one, what you did was rotate to look for the corresponding edge because you were focused on this one, and then you paired them up like this. And then that requires another rotation to insert it. So in this case, you don't really need a rotation, as that exact same pairing does work from the back. Or a better way to do it from this angle would be like this, and that pairs them up. Or even notice that you have to rotate and then do sledgehammer here, or do this entire algorithm like this. So you don't have to know all of those solutions, but one for each way you could be rotated is pretty useful. All right, and then we had this pair, which you made a mistake and inserted it into the wrong slot, but that's okay, you can just fix that later. So then you did these two right away, good look ahead, and then did these two. So you paired them up here, and then inserted and insert here. All right, then I'm going to talk a lot about your finger tricks and unnecessary regrips during OLL and PLL algorithms. So here, you did these three moves and then regripped for the U, R, U prime, R prime. So this algorithm should be one of the fastest and regripless, and that is done like this. Do the U like that, and then do F prime either like this or like this. So this faster would be like this. All right, and then PLL. All right, for this cross, we have red already in the cross. Orange is not a good piece here, and we have blue and green here. So what you did was move red to the correct spot, move blue to the correct spot, orange to the correct spot, and then do green last. So this is actually a great cross solution, as the finger tricks were nice when you face blue, and I don't believe there's a shorter way to do the cross. But there is a way you can do an X cross, and I want you guys, if you are following along, to try and see if you can find it. So how I know to look for an X cross in a situation like this is the corner that is attached to the edge, and I know that it's going to be preserved. As you can see here, when I insert this, it is going to be preserved. So it's not that hard to be able to tell when a corner will be preserved, and when that is the case, try to solve the edge that goes with it. So that is red-green, and so that's this one. So we can insert this by first making sure it's oriented. So that's when the side color matches or opposite matches the side center. So that would be good, and here you could just compare like that. And if that is the case, you can solve it rotationless. If it was not the case, like this, where it doesn't match or opposite match the side center, you just rotate either way you want, and then insert that into the correct spot like that. And then once you align the cross, then that will make the first pair already. So I have a full tutorial covering X crosses. It is not something you should do every solve because it's not always faster than doing just cross plus first pair. But in a case where one piece happens to be solved for you, then it can be worth looking out for something like this. So for the rest of the solve, you pretty much did everything correctly. You paired up these two and then insert it into here. Now, just one thing that could be better here, if you rotate and have it as a back slot instead of a front slot, what you did was 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can save one move and make it a back slot just by doing R prime U to R instead. So after this, then you saw this one and this one. And then these two, back slot, and these. So for this OLL, you did this algorithm, which is good, but you should do it regripless. So you started like this, and that is already a big red flag. Anytime you start with an R or L prime move, which is an upward move, and you do any U move afterwards, it should not take a regrip. So I know you know how to do this, but in this case, the pinch turn or the reverse push, then that would work well here like that, or like this. All right, then for A perm, you have a very unnecessary regrip partway through. Right here, D2, for some reason your thumb comes up here, but if you just keep your thumb at the bottom for the rest of the algorithm, it doesn't make a difference. So you moved it up here, and then I think, yeah, here you had to like readjust your hand. So in general, the solve looked pretty great to me, but the reason why it wasn't quite as good, like say 11 or 10, you started your first pair at around 3 seconds, which really just means your cross actually took 3 seconds, even though your cross really took like 1.5. So if you planned out an entire X cross because this cross was already very easy, then you could have saved a lot of time there. Or if you looked ahead to first pair during the cross, which we'll talk about more in these next few solves. So for this cross, you did it really well, pretty much exactly the same way I would have done it. So you inserted red here, and then notice that green and blue can be set up opposite each other like that. And when you insert it like that, you get orange as well, and then align the cross. So after the cross, you tilted the cube around to look for your first pair. So let's see how you could have avoided that. So as you do the cross solution, just look for white coming by, and there we go. And then once you see this, you want to take note of its general surroundings. So here, I know that that piece could be the one that goes with this one. And then I'm going to do that and notice, hey, it's actually this one. So once you look in that general area and you don't see its pairing piece, you just move your head to the other side. So another thing you could have noticed is that when this corner comes up, you can just do a U move, see what it is. Don't do that to see what it is. So this is orange-green. And also look at the surroundings. Oh, let's align the cross. So it's not anything here because it's not this one because we just saw it as we did the U move. So then look to the other side and only at that back slot. Has to be this one, right? Because it wasn't anything here. So the only thing left is actually that back slot. So it feels like there are a lot of spaces on a cube for pieces to be, but just remember that if you find a corner first and you're looking for its edge, it's either in one field of view on one side or just the back slot on the other. So using that, we found these two, or we could have deduced this one and this one. So anyway, you went for this as your first pair. And then next we had these two. Well, actually, you had this in the front of your vision. I don't know why you didn't see it. I feel like this happened before as well. You did this one and then insert it into the back. That's good. Okay, and then you had these two. And watch this finger trick right here. This is actually an unnecessary regrip because you could always just do U2 with the other hand as well. All right, then you inserted this, and then we have these two. I've personally always found that cases like this are hard to recognize because comparing across a long distance, if they're the same or not, is kind of difficult. So what I've learned to do is recognize by edge orientation instead. So since this matches the side, and I've talked about this a little bit in this video already, so if it is oriented, then I just know I have to do this. And if it's not oriented, I would just have to rotate and do whatever case I get in that case. All right, and then one thing people always ask me is in this case, how do you avoid getting a dot case for R prime case? Because for this case, you can just do a sledgehammer. But if they're split, I'd personally say just take the dot case. But what you could do instead is this, which doesn't give you a dot case anymore, but it doesn't solve the cross for you either. So it's not like super worth it. And the other thing you could do is something like this, which is a whole lot of moves just to still give you an OLL. So I personally think that taking the dot case is fine. So how you ended up doing it was like this. And then for this OLL, you started with F like this. It is better to start with F like this, which is a finger trick that is not that commonly used, but if you want to use this OLL algorithm, you should do it this way. And how you can make sure that that is done well is keep your pinky under the S layer. That way it doesn't turn by accident. If you don't do it, then sometimes you'll get the S layer turning. So that way you don't have to regrip and it flows more smoothly. All right, and then V perm. I can't even do this V perm. I'm just gonna do it my way. So in the scramble, orange and green are done, but not correct relative to each other. So you picked that orange is wrong, and you will solve everything relative to green and just replace orange at the end. So this is a replacement technique talked about in my advanced cross tutorial. So like that, put these two in, and then orange is out. Now from here, what you should do is if you really want to avoid a rotation, you could do something like this, or D, F prime D. But what you did was rotate and then do this. Okay, so there is a better cross solution here, but it's sort of hard to spot, and I don't blame you for not spotting it. So the better way to do it here is, if you notice that when you put in blue over to here, if I were to do this, then blue and orange are solved. Now green is over here and red is over here, and this is a very nice pattern now, where green needs to be a double turn away from being set up, and red is also a double turn away from being solved. So if we just align the cross, do this, and we have this case. So this is a cross that involves turning all 4 of these sides, which means no matter what, there is an F and a B move, which is usually undesirable, but we could start with the B move, and that is if you start like this, and then that gets the B move out of the way, and the rest of the cross is super fast. So this cross solution faster would look like this. So let's see how you could have looked ahead to the first pair. So just doing your cross solution. So here I noticed that we have this right here and this right here. So as you rotate, because that's what you did, we're going to look at both of them, and okay, lucky us, it is right here. So if instead this wasn't here and it was just this, then I think I'd be, when I first see this, I'd see that as well as a possibility for what it goes with. And then once I finish turning the right side, I notice that, hey, it cannot be anything here. None of these are red and blue. So I would know then it must be this one, and I can go straight into this pair. So first you did this, and here you should be looking at the left side, because there's this corner you can focus on and nothing here is red-blue. So that would make this pretty easy to spot. So you did this, and then instead I think you went into this pair by looking at the back first. So how you could have avoided looking at the back is, again, you either have this full field of view or this back slot. But the back slot's solved, which means you should not have to look anywhere but right here. And obviously you can't see that this is blue-orange, but nothing else is blue-orange except maybe this one. So that's not blue-orange, so it's this one. So super important, one side or the other back slot. That's all you have to look at to find an edge. So you pair these up, and then this is what I call a competition solve. It's when you insert it into the wrong spot. And then you have these two, you pair them up like this, and the finger trick you did here, like that. I personally don't recommend this during F2L, and the reason is because reaching over like this causes mistakes, and you did have a slight lockup here. So I instead recommend this or this. And then these two. And so here, when you have two pairs in the top layer and they're on opposite sides, like diagonal from each other, then the best thing to do here is to sledgehammer one of the pairs, because that is the only way to preserve them. If you insert either one of them normally, you get this. And if you insert either of them with a U2, then again, they're broken. So in this case, you were already facing here and you were about to insert red-blue. I would recommend switching over to orange-blue, sledgehammer, insert that, and like that. But what you did was insert red-blue and then just do this pair. And then you have OLL. I think you did it like this. And then PLL G-perm. It was a very nice G-perm, by the way. I can't do it right-handed. So quick review of the key points we talked about. Remember to not have unnecessary regrips like R prime U2 R. Instead, you can just do U2 with the other hand, and don't have unnecessary regrips like R U2 R prime, especially if you're doing U2 with the other hand. And a lot of these can be fixed just by doing some slow solves, so you can really recognize what you're doing, and I'm sure you can easily spot these when they do come up. Then remember for look ahead, when pieces are in front of you, you actually do very well. But when they're not, remember that if you're looking for an edge that goes with a corner, then check one side completely. Could be that one, not that one. In that case, check only that one back slot. And if it wasn't already here, then it has to be that one. Oh, and it could also be this one, but I solved this slot, so it's not this one. So in that case, it has to be this one. One sticker is enough to recognize the case, and if you know it's right there. And lastly, looking ahead to first pair during the cross, which you can just build up experience for by yourself. If you want to see lots of examples and tips for how I plan the first pair, you can check out this video on the end screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.